My name is Dunn. I am going to be attempting again to give a informative slash demonstrative speech on throwing a proper punch. A lot of people might be asking themselves, why? What's the need? We've all had those days, as you've all demonstrated thus far, like my day, where it's not going quite as planned, and you want to punch something. You know, there's no better way to relieve pressure and stress than be able to just take it out on some inanimate object. So we're going to talk about that, the safety behind it, the technique, the function, and pretty much how to pull it off without hurting yourself or somebody else. First thing we're going to talk about is the safety. A couple things to keep in mind when throwing a punch, no matter what you're hitting, is the safety for the hand that's making the contact. A couple things that can go wrong: you can break a finger, pop a finger out of socket, and the same thing for your wrist. You can bend it forward or backwards, you can break it, sprain it. And in severe cases, people have actually broken their forearms hitting something too hard that doesn't give. You know, note to self, make sure that what you are hitting has some kind of give to it, which is why people that usually punch walls and trees don't fare as well as people who punch heavy bags. So, first things first, we'll talk about some of the things you can use for that safety purpose. One of them is your average glove off the shelf. You can get it at any sporting goods stores. The key feature here is this part, and I'll show you what exactly this is. Putting the glove on, and they make fingered gloves, fingerless. I prefer the fingerless for other reasons. This is the important feature here, is the strap. You want to make sure that it's tightened to a strength where it doesn't limit your mobility, but also doesn't allow your wrist to flick forward or back in the event that you do miss and you glance off or whatever the case may be. It also provides plenty of protection for your knuckles, the top parts of your fingers, because you're not going to hit every time squarely. The more you hit this one object, the more you're going to tire yourself out, or what's called punching yourself out. So this is one example of a way to stay safe. Also the easiest and quickest. For those that take it a little more seriously, there's wrist wraps. And you see a lot of boxers that use these. They either use these or they'll use these in conjunction with athletic tape for taping the knuckles. Usually you reserve that for when you're doing a sanctioned fight. But to use these, it's fairly simple. You start with a loop and then just start the process. Now, again, focusing on your wrist. You want to keep it pretty tight. You know, you don't want to pop it out, but you also want to go over your knuckles. Again, I mentioned earlier, if you don't hit your target squarely, which you won't every time, especially if it's your first time, you want to make sure your knuckles don't end up looking like they drug them across the cheese grater. So what I like to do is, go around the knuckles a few times, the wrist, and then maybe come up through the knuckles just to hold them in place. This process, once you get good at it, is going to take you 2 or 3 minutes. If you've never wrapped your wrist before, it could take you 10 minutes because you're going to redo it 4 or 5 times. So, almost done here. I'll just get this wrapped up, and I'll just leave this on for the rest of the demonstration. As you get down to the last, 1.5 foot length of this is where you want to put a little bit of torque on it, because the more you hit a bag, whether it's a speed bag or a heavy bag or somebody you're sparring with, it's going to loosen severely on you. So at this point, you want to start flexing the hand a little bit, and then give it a little bit of torque, and then put it on. Now, your hand should feel naturally at this point like it wants to make a fist. Kind of feel like something's wrong with your hand. It wants to close. Like you hold your hand side by side, this one wants to close up. Because I'm pulling on all these tendons and almost making a natural fist, which is exactly the feel you want. And you can see my knuckles are protected, and my wrist is also secure. Also, you want to make sure that when you are hitting a target, it's out of stress relief or exercise, not anger. You don't want to just start frailing away on something and you take a chance of blowing something out. If you're just wildly swinging, you can actually pop an elbow or, again, the finger or the wrist. So now we will get into the 2 types of punches I'm going to talk about: the lead hand punch, or which is also known as a jab, and the rear hand punch, which is your strong punch or your power punch. I'm going to demonstrate this from a right-handed point of view, so my lead hand punch is going to be my left. So I'm going to talk about the hook. Now, obviously, whether you're fighting or you're just boxing, or if you're going to hit something, you're going to take a stance that promotes, power distribution or power transfer. Lead foot forward, right leg is going to be on the back. You're going to put most of your weight on your rear leg, and you're going to stand in position with your hands up. Your lead hand punch is going to be just an out and back snap, like, just coming out and back. The idea is that when you do it, to get the full use of the transfer of energy, you're going to want to straighten everything and then actually turn your thumb down. So if you had your thumb up the entire time you're punching, it should look like you're giving someone a thumbs down when you end. Now this is for orthodox boxing style. If you were involved in martial arts like Wang Chun or something like that, they actually teach short choppy punches where you keep it in the thumbs up position. But for boxing, which is what I'm talking about here, you're going to go with the thumbs down. So when you transfer your energy, you're coming straight forward and straight back. This is not a power punch. You're not intending to knock anybody out or knock the heavy bag off the ring. You're just going to put it out there for jab. This is the fun punch, I like to refer to it as. So again, going from here, there's not a whole lot of upper body motion or hip movement. It's just a jab. Now we'll get into the right hand punch, or the power punch, your rear hand punch. This is where there's a little bit more involved as far as the rest of your body. This is where the main transfer of energy is going to happen. So when you throw your rear hand punch, you're doing the same thing. Ultimately you want to end up in the thumbs down position, but because your shoulder's to the rear, you're going to actually have to swivel your hips and you're going to drive off your rear foot. So the camera you probably can't see, but what I'm doing is I'm turning and I'm pivoting off my right foot when I make that punch. So as I'm doing this, I'm throwing the arm, pivoting the hips, shoulders, and pushing off my right foot. And that's where you're transferring all of your power into your target, which is going to be your heavy bag, your sparring partner, the guy trying to mug you a knee board, whatever the case may be. So again, the lead is just here. It's straight. It's real quick, you know. Remember to turn the wrist, thumb down. Your rear hand's going to come. That's where you have your shoulder, your hip, and your rear leg driving off the platform or the ground. It's going to do all your damage for you and transfer all that energy. I also want to talk about. Well, I guess that's going to be the end of it for now. I'm now going to turn and see if the audience has any feedback for me. So that's the end of the formal part of the speech. And somebody want to turn it. Does anybody have any feedback of any kind whatsoever? Questions, comments, concerns?
Did you used to box a lot? Is that how
I kickboxed, and then in the Marine Corps I was a mixed martial arts instructor.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you have a lot of experience.
Mostly getting beat up, but yeah. Anybody else?
You had tattoo?
What?
I guess you can kill it.